One book at a time. Today's selection is The Art of War.
Have you ever felt like you're fighting every day without even realizing it? Imagine this. Every morning when you wake up, you're already starting a battle. It might be the struggle with the alarm clock or trying to get out of the warm bed. At work, you're facing tight deadlines, endless emails, and challenging colleagues or bosses. And when you get home, it might be another battle with your kids over their studies or negotiating with your partner about who will wash the dishes tonight. These may seem like small things, but they're all conflicts, challenges, and pressures we face every day. These silent battles happen in the office, at home, on the streets, and even in our minds. What's fascinating is that Sun Tzu, a military strategist from the 6th century BC, and author of The Art of War, wrote things that could help us understand these modern-day battles. Can an ancient book about war really teach us how to deal with our bosses, work, or relationships? It might sound crazy, but I believe it can, and even be incredibly useful. Sun Tzu famously said, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and in 100 battles you will never be in peril." This saying, in the context of war, was a guide to understanding both your own forces and the enemy in order to come up with the right strategy. But what about in our modern lives? Know others here could mean understanding your customers, colleagues, partners, or even competitors. And know yourself means understanding your strengths, weaknesses, goals, and limits. This isn't just for large corporations or million-dollar projects. Even when you want to convince your boss to approve your idea, you need to understand what your boss wants and is concerned about, and be confident in your idea. Or when resolving a misunderstanding in a relationship, you need to understand the other person's feelings and be honest with your own. Are you ready? Let's begin this adventure. We'll explore Sun Tzu and his first principles right now. Chapter 1. The Plan. The Art of War. The Silent Preparation. The title of this chapter says it all. Silent Preparation. It may not seem as glamorous as chapters on attack or defense, but it is the foundation, the root of every success. Sun Tzu does not rush into battle. He begins with a question. Why must we evaluate and calculate carefully before taking action? The answer is simple. War, or any confrontation in life, is a serious matter, tied to survival, to the very existence of what we are fighting for. If we act recklessly, the price we pay could be extremely high. In order to carry out this careful planning, Sun Tzu points out 5 key factors that every leader, every planner, needs to thoroughly examine. Dao, Tian, Dai, Shun, and Fa. Let's take a deeper look at these. First, Tao, moral law, This is not just ordinary morality. It is the common will, the shared spirit of the people, of the entire team. Why do we fight? What is our shared goal? If a team does not have a common vision or belief in their mission, they will easily disband. In business, this is the company's mission, its corporate culture. In personal life, it is the core values, the beliefs that shape who you are. Do you have enough Tao to overcome difficulties? Are people willing to follow you? Second, Tian, heaven. The heaven factor refers to the weather, timing, and seasonal elements. But more broadly, it covers the external factors, the macro trends that we cannot directly control. Is the market going up or down? What technologies are trending? Are you acting at the right moment? Grasping the heavens' timing helps you decide when to take action or when to hold back. Third, Dai, earth. Earth refers to terrain, position, distance, and resources. In business, this means your target market, geographical advantages, and available material resources. In personal life, this refers to your environment, the tools, and the resources supporting you. Do you fully understand your earth advantages? Fourth, Jun, commander. This refers to the qualities of a leader: wisdom, trustworthiness, compassion, courage, and strictness. A great leader knows how to unite the team, make wise decisions, and inspire others. A company cannot grow without a leadership team with vision and ethics. Are you a capable commander leading your own journey? Finally, Fa, method and discipline. Fa refers to the system, the rules, the organization, and the discipline. Is your team organized? Are processes clear? Is logistics ensured? Even if you have Tao, Tian, Di, and an excellent commander, without a smooth operating system and ironclad discipline, everything will fall into chaos. Sun Tzu says, when you master these 5 factors, you will have the upper hand. Imagine this. You want to build a beautiful, solid house. Would you rush into building the walls and plastering right away? Certainly not. The first and most important step is to survey the land, design the blueprint, lay the foundation, and pour reinforced concrete. The foundation is these 5 factors we just discussed. If the foundation is not strong, no matter how beautiful the walls are, how grand the roof is, one day the house will collapse. We often get attracted to flashy exteriors, to hasty actions, but we forget that the foundation is what determines sustainability. After establishing a strong foundation, what's the next step? You need to make comparisons. assess your own strength against the opponent's. This is the core of knowing yourself and knowing the enemy. Sun Tzu does not teach us to be blindly confident or overly fearful. He teaches us to be objective. How many soldiers do we have? How many does the enemy have? What is the quality of our soldiers compared to theirs? Are our weapons stronger or weaker? Who has the advantage of terrain? Who has the people's favor? In business, this means conducting a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, of both your own and your competitors. Don't just focus on your strengths and ignore your weaknesses. And don't only focus on your competitors' strengths while neglecting your opportunities. A comprehensive, honest view will help you realize that victory doesn't always come from direct confrontation. Sometimes it comes from choosing the right time, the right place, or even winning without a fight. Sun Tzu's plan is not just a list of tasks. It is a philosophy of preparation, of long-term vision. It teaches us that true victory is not about defeating the opponent. It is about making sure the opponent cannot defeat you, even before the battle begins. It's the victory that comes from silent calculations, from building a foundation so solid that no one can shake it. Ask yourself this: before you begin a new project, a new job, or even a new habit, how much time have you spent on silent preparation? Have you evaluated your Dao, Tian, Di, Xun, and Fa? Have you compared your strengths to the challenges ahead? If the answer is no, then perhaps it's time for you to slow down a little, take a deep breath, and spend time on this silent preparation. Because, as Sun Tzu said, the winner often wins before entering the battlefield. In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into how to execute these plans most effectively. Chapter 2: Warfare. The price of conflict. Now, we step into an even more practical aspect. Warfare. The title, The Price of Conflict, that I've chosen for this chapter says it all. It's not just about monetary costs. It's about the mental, emotional, and opportunity costs that we face. Sun Tzu is not a bloodthirsty warrior. He is a practical, even cold strategist. He understands very clearly that war is not a game. It is a massive gamble, a bottomless pit that drains the resources of a nation. He wrote, "Chariots must be repaired, armor must be sturdy. Transporting supplies over 1,000 miles exhausts the people and empties the treasury." While this may sound ancient, think about it for a moment. Horses, chariots, armor, food supplies, soldiers, all of these require money. And not just money, but effort, time, and most importantly, the morale of the people and the troops. A prolonged war, even if it initially seems to be going in your favor, will ultimately drain the energy of an entire kingdom. Finances will run dry, the people will grow disillusioned, and worse, the fighting spirit of the soldiers will diminish. Nothing wears down morale like exhaustion, hopeless waiting, and seeing resources dwindle with no end in sight. Have you ever experienced the feeling of dragging out a project, a debate, or even a relationship that no longer has a clear purpose? The longer it drags on, the more you feel your energy depleting, your spirit sinking, and the costs, whether financial or opportunity costs, keep piling up. This is the price that Sun Tzu wants us to see. Therefore, the core lesson from Chapter 2 is swift action, swift victory. Sun Tzu is not saying we should act hastily or recklessly. He talks about decisiveness, about acting efficiently to achieve a goal in the shortest time possible with the least resources. Avoid getting bogged down in unnecessary battles or debates. Every moment of delay, every negotiation that leads nowhere, every meeting that goes on without results is draining your precious resources. Just like in battle, if your army is bogged down too long, your weapons will dull, your spirits will wane, and the chance of victory will vanish. In personal life, it's the same. If you linger over a minor issue, unable to make a firm decision, you're dulling your weapon of focus and mental strength. Now, how does this relate to our personal lives? Consider personal finances. A small debt, if not resolved quickly, can snowball into a massive interest burden over time. Small daily expenses, seemingly harmless, but if left unchecked, will consume your wealth like a prolonged war of attrition. Are you dragging out a loan or procrastinating on cutting unnecessary costs? Apply the principle of swift action to manage your finances, settle debts, make quick and effective decisions on spending. What about your energy and time? Endless petty arguments with coworkers, relatives that go nowhere, meetings where nothing gets decided, or procrastinating on starting an important task. Aren't these battles that you're forced into draining energy without any chance of winning? Sun Tzu teaches us to identify what is truly worth fighting for, and when we've made that decision, to act with speed and the highest level of decisiveness. Or, if the battle is not worth it, find ways to avoid it altogether and conserve your resources for more meaningful, impactful goals. Don't get bogged down in endless debates or energy-draining situations that don't add value. This chapter is not just about war between nations. It's a powerful reminder of how we manage our lives. Every decision, every action comes with its price. Be a smart strategist. not only in planning, but in execution, ensuring that every battle you fight is resolved quickly, efficiently, and with the least cost possible. Chapter 3: Strategic Tactics: The Art of Winning Without Fighting. Have you ever heard the phrase, "win without shedding blood"? It may sound idealistic, even unrealistic, right? But Sun Tzu asserts that this is the pinnacle of all strategy. The ultimate goal of war, or more broadly, any form of competition, is to subdue the opponent without suffering any loss of people or resources. So how can one achieve such an extraordinary feat? The highest strategy, destroying the enemy's plan, is supreme. Conquering a city is lower. Sun Tzu categorizes methods of victory in a clear hierarchy, and here's how he lays it out. The highest strategy is destroying the enemy's plan, sabotaging the opponent's plans and intentions before they even have a chance to take action. When the enemy has yet to make a move, you've already convinced them to abandon their original intentions. This is the most subtle and effective form of victory, one that doesn't require a single arrow or bullet. The next best strategy is disrupting alliances. If the enemy has already formed a plan, you can weaken their alliances by persuading their allies to abandon them or divert support away from them. This will prevent them from acting effectively or at all. The third strategy is engaging the enemy in direct battle. This is when you confront your opponent head-on and defeat them on the battlefield. While this leads to victory, it will certainly result in casualties, loss of strength, and depletion of resources. The worst strategy is besieging a city. Encircling and attacking a fortified position directly is the most costly and destructive strategy. Resources, time, and manpower are wasted, and both sides suffer significant losses. Now, let's relate this to a business scenario. The highest strategy is knowing that your competitor plans to launch a new product, and you can offer a better solution that makes customers lose interest in their product, or you can convince them that the idea is unfeasible before they invest in research and development. The next best strategy is when they've already started development and found partners. You could persuade those partners to back out or collaborate with you instead of your competitor. The third strategy is when their product is already launched, and you must compete directly by investing heavily in marketing, offering discounts, and accepting a fierce market share battle. The worst strategy is when their product has succeeded, dominating the market, and you must accept a costly, full-scale battle to reclaim a portion of the market, which may drain both sides of their resources. Sun Tzu teaches us to always find ways to solve problems at the highest level, with the most subtle and least costly strategies. The goal is to stop the enemy's plans before they even begin. Applying this in negotiation, how to make the opponent willingly yield. This is where I believe Sun Tzu truly shines as a master of psychology and soft strategy. Strategic tactics are not just for the battlefield. It is the art of making the opponent see that the best choice for them is, at times, to comply with what you want or to make concessions. To do this, you need to understand the opponent better than they understand themselves. You need to know their desires, fears, weaknesses, strengths, and core values. What are their ultimate goals? What drives them to act? Create a win-win scenario, at least in terms of perception. Even if you want them to concede, present it in a way that they see the benefit to themselves. If you do this, you will gain A and avoid B. Sometimes the benefit may not be financial. It could be reputation, security, convenience, or even preserving their dignity. Control the flow of information and perception. This doesn't mean lying, but rather presenting the truth strategically. You may emphasize the risks of not conceding or highlight the opportunities they will miss. Invisible pressure. An effective strategic tactic can create an invisible pressure that makes the opponent feel they need to act in your favor, but without feeling forced. They will recognize it as the most reasonable decision in the current circumstances. For example, you might present a compelling alternative that makes them realize that if they don't collaborate with you, they will miss a big opportunity or face a stronger competitor. I remember a time when I had to negotiate with a tough partner about a project. Instead of focusing on what I wanted, I spent time thoroughly researching the pressures they were facing and the urgent goals of their company. When I sat at the negotiation table, I didn't demand anything, but instead presented a solution that not only helped me achieve my goal, but also solved their biggest issue. As a result, they not only agreed, but were grateful for the guidance I provided. That's making the opponent willingly yield. The importance of preserving resources, winning without fighting, is not only the most effective strategy, but also the one that helps you conserve your resources in the best possible way. Preserving lives. In war, this refers to the lives of soldiers. In business, it refers to the health, morale, and enthusiasm of your team. A prolonged battle will deplete your human resources. Preserving resources, money, time, effort, and reputation. Every direct confrontation consumes these valuable resources. Preserving motivation and position. A Pyrrhic victory, a victory at too great a cost, almost like a defeat, can sap your motivation to continue or weaken your position for future challenges. Strategic tactics ensures that you don't just win, but that you retain your strength to keep growing and facing new challenges. Sun Tzu says, "A skilled warrior never repeats mistakes, so he never loses." In other words, the most skilled person avoids unnecessary battles. They protect their resources, ensuring they can use them for bigger, long-term goals. In conclusion, Chapter 3, Strategic Tactics, is not just a military strategy. It's a life philosophy. It teaches us about subtlety, foresight, the art of understanding the opponent, and placing ourselves in their position. It encourages us to seek smart, low-cost solutions to achieve our goals without paying the price in blood and tears. This is how a true strategist operates. They win in the mind before any battle even begins. What do you think about the art of winning without fighting? Do you agree that this is the pinnacle of all strategies? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more interesting content ahead. Chapter 4, Tactical Dispositions. The Unbeatable Position. Do you remember our ultimate goal? It is to build a solid defensive posture before even thinking about going on the offensive. This might sound a bit passive, right? But believe me, this isn't just about defense. It is the art of building a position that is truly unbeatable. According to the concept of placing yourself in a position where you cannot lose, Sun Tzu stated that the skillful warrior first makes himself invincible and then waits for the opportunity to defeat the enemy. Imagine preparing for a chess match where a master player never rushes an attack from the very first move. Instead, they take the time to fortify their lines, protect their vital pieces, and construct a position so solid that the opponent can hardly find a way through, essentially building a fortress right there on the board. It is the same in life and business. Putting yourself in a position where you cannot lose means you have proactively eliminated every hole and every weakness that could be exploited. In terms of knowledge, it means you have learned enough and equipped yourself with sufficient information before making a major decision. Financially, it means you have a reserve fund, a lifesaver to ensure you aren't blindsided by risks. Regarding health, you train both your body and mind to establish a firm foundation that won't easily crumble. And in your relationships, you build deep, reliable connections to ensure you have a support network when needed. This is not about being timid or lacking ambition. It is the wisdom to ensure that even if the worst-case scenario unfolds, you will still be standing. Because once you become an unshakable wall, you can then look outward with confidence and seek out new opportunities. Once you are in an invincible position, the next step is to wait. But this is not a passive, idle waiting. It is strategic waiting, combined with keen observation. Sun Tzu taught that there are no absolute strengths that win forever. There are only the weaknesses of the enemy to be leveraged for eternal victory. This means you don't need to exhaust yourself trying to manufacture a massive opportunity from nothing. Instead, focus on observing your opponent, your competitors, or even the shifts in the market and life itself. Ask yourself, are they rushing? Are they under pressure? Are they revealing a flaw? Or are they making a mistake that you can capitalize on? Think about how many times in your life you have acted in a hurry only to regret it later. Sun Tzu advises us to slow down, observe, and strike only when the timing is perfect and the door of the opponent's mistake swings wide open. Much like a martial artist who doesn't rush his strikes, but waits for the opponent to leave their stomach or knee exposed before delivering a fatal blow. This patience, built on a foundation of stability, is the key to victory. This is the core insight and the ultimate philosophy of this chapter, and it marks the greatest difference between a brilliant strategist and someone who is merely gambling. The ones who win before they fight, those skilled in war, are those who never enter a battle without the capacity to win. They have planned and prepared everything to ensure an almost absolute victory before ever setting foot on the field, making their win the natural result of thorough preparation, invincibility, and waiting for the perfect moment. They don't need to show off their strength or waste resources. Their victory is both obvious and inevitable. Conversely, those who fight and then try to win are inferior. They rush into battle relying on luck, temporary strength, or pure instinct. Once the match is underway, they start scrambling for openings, patching up their mistakes, and hoping for a miracle. Their victories often come at a heavy price, with massive losses, and are frequently unsustainable. They might win a battle, but they won't necessarily win the war. Consider this difference in our own lives. On one hand, there is the entrepreneur who spends years researching the market, building a solid product, and having a financial backup plan, the one who wins before the fight. On the other hand, there is the person who rushes to start a business just because of a cool idea, with no research or backup plan, the one who fights and then tries to win. The result is usually quite clear, isn't it? Chapter 4 of The Art of War is not just a military strategy, but a profound life philosophy that teaches us the importance of building a foundation, having self-control, and practicing patience. Before you think about attacking a new goal in your work, studies, or even a relationship, ask yourself, have I put myself in a position where I cannot lose? Am I solid enough to remain unshaken by any challenge? This isn't procrastination. It is the shortest and safest path to sustainable success. In the next chapter, we will dive deep into momentum, where we will learn how to generate drive and leverage synergy to turn this unbeatable position into a truly effective strike. Chapter 5: Momentum, Strategic Power, Managing Energy and Drive. When discussing momentum, Sun Tzu offers a classic metaphor that I absolutely love, and I believe it will help you visualize its power more clearly. Fighting with a skilled army is like rolling a massive boulder down a high mountain. Just imagine that a boulder, whether large or small, has a power that is limited only to its physical weight when it sits still on the ground. However, once that same rock is placed at the peak of a mountain and begins to roll down, its power increases exponentially, creating an unstoppable force. At that point, it is no longer just about weight. It has become momentum, the release of raw potential and drive. This teaches us that to win, you don't necessarily need absolute strength, but rather the knowledge of how to create and leverage this momentum. It is not about how many soldiers you have, how much money is in the bank, or how many hours you work, but rather where you position your resources so that every small action triggers a domino effect, transforming static energy into a formidable force. Think about a project you are currently working on. Instead of pushing it forward bit by bit with brute force, how can you create momentum so that it rolls on its own and pulls even greater results behind it? But how exactly do you create that kind of momentum? Sun Tzu points to two core elements: organization and signals. Organization is how you structure your army, much like the concept of dividing to conquer in management. An army of tens of thousands will inevitably fall into chaos and become uncontrollable if it is not divided into smaller units with clear responsibilities and specific commanders. You cannot control every single individual, but you can certainly control the units. Similarly, in a company, you have departments and small teams where each group had its own mission, yet everyone moves toward a common goal. This tight organization creates the structure and the backbone that prevents your power from being scattered. Furthermore, signals refer to how you direct those units smoothly and effectively through a system of communication like flags, drums, and clear, unified commands. When the flags wave and the drums roll, every unit, no matter where they are, understands and acts in perfect sync. In a modern context, signals represent communication protocols, project management tools, and a shared understanding of goals and vision. When a team is well organized and has clear signals, every individual, no matter how small their role, contributes to the overall drive, creating a synergy that functions like a perfectly lubricated machine. Moreover, one of Sun Tzu's most precious gems, and the part I find most fascinating, is the combination of the conventional and the unconventional. The conventional represents what you do according to principles and common sense. It is the original plan and the direct approach to a problem. It serves as the basic strategy and a solid foundation. In business, for instance, the conventional might be a high-quality product, excellent service, or traditional marketing strategies. On the other hand, the unconventional is creativity, surprise, and the unexpected strikes that fall outside of an opponent's predictions. It is the element of breakthrough and innovation. In the business world, the unconventional could be a unique viral campaign, a never-before-seen product feature, or a completely fresh approach to the market. Sun Tzu taught that you use the conventional to engage, but you use the unconventional to win. This means the conventional is used to bind the opponent and maintain constant pressure. But it is the unconventional that actually strikes the blow, creating a decisive advantage and leaving the opponent surprised and disoriented. You should never rely solely on the conventional because it is predictable and easy to counter. But you should also never rely solely on the unconventional because it lacks a foundation and is vulnerable to counterattacks without a solid base. Think about a soccer match to see this in action. The conventional is the basic tactics, the formation, and the practiced passing and defense. The unconventional is a moment of spontaneous coordination, a surprise long shot from midfield, or a bold substitution that completely changes the game. When the conventional and the unconventional are blended seamlessly, you not only maintain constant pressure, but also continuously break your opponent's balance, forcing them into a passive state and multiplying your momentum. Thus, Chapter 5 of Sun Tzu's Art of War does not just teach us about how much power we possess, but about how to create and manage that energy to turn it into an unstoppable drive. It is the art of using resources to create an overwhelming momentum, much like a giant boulder rolling down a mountain that nothing can stop. This is an incredibly powerful mindset that applies to every field, from managing a small project to building an entire empire. In the next chapter, we will dive deeper into how to apply these principles in actual combat, specifically the art of using the void and the full. But before that, please share your thoughts on how momentum plays a role in your life and work. Chapter 6: Weakness and Strength, the Art of Flexibility. The title Weakness and Strength might sound a bit abstract, right? Empty and full, void and actuality. But in truth, this chapter is all about how we attack the gaps, avoid the strong points, and most importantly, how we control our opponent. In other words, it is the art of reading your opponent like a book and turning the battlefield into your own playground. Let's start with the golden rule and the most fundamental principle of this philosophy. Avoid strength, attack weakness. While this sounds obvious, in practice, it's not something everyone can pull off. Have you ever found yourself stubbornly banging your head against a grueling problem, a formidable rival, or a concrete wall, knowing full well it would drain your energy with little chance of success? That is exactly when you are attempting to attack the opponent's strength, the place where they are most powerful and fortified. Sun Tzu taught that a brilliant commander never tries to compete with an opponent where they have prepared thoroughly and concentrated their entire force. Instead, they seek out the void, the weak points, the gaps, and the places where the opponent is unprepared or poorly defended. Imagine playing a game of chess. If your opponent has a solid line of pieces in the center, would you launch a head-on assault and lose everything? Or would you maneuver your pieces around to attack the flanks and the rear where their lines are thin? Even in business, if your competitor is a massive corporation dominating a specific niche, should you dump all your money and resources into competing directly with them? Or would you find a smaller, untapped market segment that they don't really care about? That is attacking the void and avoiding strength. It's not cowardice. It's supreme wisdom and optimal efficiency. Furthermore, to successfully attack the gaps, you must master a vital technique known as arriving first to await the enemy. This does not mean passively sitting around for your opponent to show up before reacting. Rather, it means taking the initiative to go one step ahead, choosing the location, the timing, and creating a favorable setup for yourself, then calmly waiting for the opponent to fall into your trap or be forced to act according to your will. Imagine you have an important job interview. Instead of arriving at the last minute, you get there 30 minutes early to research the company, breathe deeply, and prepare mentally, perhaps even observing the workspace. When you walk into that interview room, you are in a position of initiative, far more calm and confident than someone who arrived late and rushed, because you arrived first and awaited your opportunity. In war, this means you choose the battlefield, build fortifications, and control the water and food supplies before waiting for the opponent to march in, exhausted and unfamiliar with the terrain. Whoever arrives first and prepares more thoroughly holds the initiative and control over the match. And this is a form of strategic initiative, not haste or recklessness. Finally, the pinnacle of weakness and strength is the ability to make the opponent reveal themselves while you remain hidden. To attack the gaps and avoid the strong points, you must know exactly where they are, and the best way to get that information is to force your opponent to expose it. Sun Tzu suggested methods such as feigning an attack on one point to force the opponent to move their troops there, thereby exposing other weaknesses, or using maneuvers to provoke the opponent, making them hasty and lose their composure, which leads to mistakes and reveals their true intentions. Think about a professional salesperson. They never jump straight into a product pitch, but instead ask questions, listen, and set small traps in the conversation to discover the customer's true needs or the weak points in their buying decisions. Once the customer reveals those things, the salesperson has identified the void and can offer the most suitable solution. In personal life, rather than being overeager with questions, you can observe, listen, and even create situations where others naturally reveal their character and views. The goal is to remain calm and concealed within your own strategy, while the opponent shows all their cards. In summary, weakness and strength is not just about avoiding strength and hitting weakness. It is a comprehensive philosophy of flexibility, teaching us to create advantages by controlling information and the opponent's actions. Power is not always found in head-on confrontation. Sometimes, it lies in the ability to move fluidly like water, finding the gaps and creating sudden advantages. Remember, in every situation, strive to arrive first and await the enemy. Observe and make your opponent reveal themselves so that you can strike the void and maintain total control. Chapter 7: Military Maneuvers: Turning Disadvantage into Advantage. The term military maneuvers might sound heavy and ancient, as if it belongs only to the battlefields of the past. But in reality, it serves as a definitive compass for anyone seeking an advantage in business, career, or even daily debates. Our objective in this section is to explore the tactics used to secure a positional and psychological lead while we are already in the midst of our journey. First, let us discuss a seemingly contradictory yet profound philosophy from Sun Tzu, known as directness through crookedness, which suggests that the roundabout way is often the true shortcut. Sun Tzu claimed that the master of maneuvering is one who can make a winding path straight and turn a disadvantage into an asset. Think of it this way. When you see a perfectly straight road, everyone wants to take it. But that is precisely the path your rivals and competitors are watching most closely. By choosing a path that appears longer and more complex, but is unexpected and less monitored, you effectively mask your true intentions, leading your opponent to become complacent or exhausted from trying to keep up. In modern life, this applies perfectly to professional settings where the most direct approach is not always the most effective. For instance, to hit a sales goal, instead of just grinding through cold calls to new prospects, you might take the roundabout way of investing time in existing clients so they trust you enough to refer new business, leading to more sustainable results. In negotiations, this could mean feigning indifference toward a specific clause only to bring it up as a demand at the very last minute, or focusing on minor points first before suddenly striking at the core issue. Even in personal life, instead of a direct request, you can create an indirect situation where others feel inclined to act voluntarily. The key here is intelligence, tact, and the art of misdirection, because sometimes the road less traveled, the one that seems longer, is actually the one that brings you to victory the fastest and at the lowest cost. Building on that cleverness is the element of discipline and unity of will, embodied in the classic principles of wind, forest, fire, and mountain, which are the four characteristics Sun Tzu demanded of his army. First is to be as swift as the wind, representing agility, suddenness, and the ability to react quickly to changing situations. Next is to be as silent as the forest, emphasizing order, secrecy, and the patience to move without drawing attention. Third is to be as fierce as fire, showing strength, intensity, and decisiveness when attacking to create the maximum impact. Finally, one must be as immovable as a mountain, possessing the firmness and resilience to remain unshaken as a solid pillar of defense. The true meaning of these four traits lies not just in their individual qualities, but in the discipline and unity of will of the entire collective. Within a team, members must know when to be as swift as the wind to deploy new ideas, as silent as the forest for detailed planning, as fierce as fire when launching a product, and as immovable as a mountain when facing negative feedback. Individually, you may need to be as swift as the wind to seize opportunities, yet as silent as the forest to reflect, as fierce as fire when presenting ideas, and as immovable as a mountain in the belief of your own values. This is a lesson in principled flexibility, achievable only through self-discipline and a unified will from the inside out. Finally, we arrive at a strategy that may sound humane, but is actually intensely pragmatic and brilliant. Never drive an enemy into a corner. Sun Tzu taught that when surrounding an army, you must leave an escape route, for an enemy with no way out will fight with desperate ferocity, whereas an open path causes them to lose their will to fight and only seek to flee. Imagine a tiger cornered. It has nothing left to lose and will fight to the death with every ounce of its strength. Your opponents are no different. If pushed to the point where they lose all dignity or hope, they will fight frantically and cause you great loss. Instead, by leaving them an escape route, their psychology shifts from fighting for survival to how can I get out of here quickly, allowing you to achieve victory with minimal casualties. In business and negotiation, never seek to completely destroy an opponent, but rather leave them a solution they can accept while saving face to prevent them from retaliating in the future. In relationships and arguments, instead of backing someone into a corner to prove they are entirely wrong, give them a point of retreat where they don't feel humiliated. Even in management, giving an employee who made a mistake a chance to fix it is the escape route that encourages growth rather than resentment. This is not weakness. It is profound wisdom, showing that true victory is defeating an opponent as intelligently and efficiently as possible. In summary, these three aspects of maneuvering, turning the roundabout into a shortcut, building a wind, forest, fire, mountain team, and the wisdom of leaving an escape route, are the golden principles for gaining an edge in every struggle of life. Chapter 8: The 9 Variations, the Art of Infinite Adaptation. If there were a single keyword to capture the essence of the 9 variations, it would undoubtedly be flexibility. Sun Tzu wants us to understand that even the most perfect plan becomes meaningless if we fail to adapt to unforeseen circumstances, as life, much like a battlefield, is perpetually filled with surprises. The successful individual is not one who rigidly clings to a predetermined path, but one who knows how to bend with the flow, to turn threats into opportunities. To cultivate this capacity for infinite adaptation, we must first identify and avoid 5 deadly internal traps that act as obstacles to a leader's ability to adapt. The first is recklessness. A leader who charges ahead without careful calculation is no different from a moth flying into a flame, which in business mirrors investing everything into an unproven idea based solely on momentary passion. In contrast to recklessness is the second trap, cowardice, which causes us to miss golden opportunities because we fear risk and hesitate to make bold moves even when the time is right. We must recognize that sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zones and accept a certain level of risk to achieve greatness. The third trap is a quick temper, the ultimate enemy of reason, as emotional dominance leads to the dismissal of objective analysis and significantly impairs one's situational awareness. Fourth is pride or arrogance, which prevents a person from admitting they are wrong, listening to feedback, and most importantly, refusing to change even when reality proves their perspective is no longer relevant. Finally, perhaps the most surprising point Sun Tzu lists as a danger is being over-compassionate. While it sounds paradoxical, in the context of war, excessive sympathy can cause a commander to hesitate on difficult but necessary decisions required to protect the majority. Within a company, this might manifest as a reluctance to fire an underperforming employee despite knowing they are dragging down the entire team. Compassion is valuable, but in leadership, it must be balanced with rationality and decisiveness. Once we overcome these 5 internal traps, we unlock a bold new dimension of flexibility, knowing which orders to follow and which to ignore. Sun Tzu argued that a true general on the front lines, who understands the situation better than anyone else, has the right to disregard orders from superiors if those commands are no longer suitable or are potentially harmful to the actual mission. This is not an act of indiscipline, but rather a profound understanding of leadership responsibility that requires strategic vision and extensive experience to make optimal decisions. The pinnacle of adaptive thinking, according to Sun Tzu, is multidimensional thinking, the realization that there is benefit within harm and harm within benefit. This philosophy reminds us that nothing is purely good or purely bad. A resounding victory can lead to complacency and exposed vulnerabilities, while a crushing defeat can serve as a vital lesson and the catalyst for a powerful restructuring. By viewing every issue through this lens, you will no longer be overly elated by success or devastated by failure, but instead, learn to find opportunities in adversity and prepare for risks even at the peak of success. Ultimately, the 9 variations is not just about changing tactics, but about a fundamental shift in mindset, from overcoming internal weaknesses to making courageous decisions based on reality and viewing the world through a multidimensional lens. The world never stops moving, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. Thus, the art of war teaches us not only how to defeat an enemy, but how to conquer ourselves and the challenges of life. In the next chapter, we will continue to explore the factors that create a sustainable victory. Chapter 9: Army on the March: Observation and Judgment. The title Army on the March might sound like something meant only for ancient generals, but my friends, Sun Tzu was not just writing about war. He was teaching us how to navigate this life and how to read the world around us from the smallest details. Our goal in this chapter is nothing less than sharpening the skill of observing body language and environmental cues, a superpower that can change the game for you in every aspect of life. First, let us look at the art of reading an opponent through their words and subtle actions. Sun Tzu noted that when an opponent appears strong but is hesitant, it is a sign of internal weakness. This may sound paradoxical, but it is profoundly true. Imagine you are in a high-stakes negotiation, or even just a conversation with friends, and the person across from you uses forceful language or displays excessive confidence. Yet you notice they avoid eye contact, fidget with their hands, or suddenly change the subject when you touch on a sensitive point. I once had an experience during a fundraising pitch where an investor kept asking aggressive, challenging questions. Initially, I was anxious, but then I noticed that every time I answered confidently, he would subconsciously adjust his tie or steal a quick glance at his phone. While his verbal language was applying pressure, those small actions revealed that he was being persuaded, or at least trying to maintain his composure. This skill is not about becoming a private detective. It is about becoming a better communicator and a wiser decision maker by understanding the true intentions hidden behind flowery words or outward appearances. It helps you identify weaknesses to attack strategically or strengths to trust and collaborate with. So start with the smallest things, like eye contact, a smile, or even the way someone breathes, because the more subtle you are, the greater your advantage. Beyond reading people, Sun Tzu teaches us to choose a favorable position for encampment, such as staying near valleys with water in the mountains, or choosing high, sunny ground on the plains. In a modern context, your encampment is your work environment, and you're standing within a project. Are you choosing to work in a place where you feel obscured and lacking light, both literally and figuratively, where it is hard to see the big picture? Or are you finding a way to place yourself on high, bright ground, where you have access to information and can clearly see both opportunities and threats? Whenever I start a new project, I always strive to grasp all the initial data and dive deep into the partners and the market to understand why the task exists and who it affects. That is how I seize the high ground to gain a clear vision that allows for more accurate judgments, helping me avoid risks and spot opportunities that others might miss. Finally, we arrive at a vital lesson on leadership: building trust with your team before imposing discipline. Sun Tzu taught that if you issue orders to soldiers before they are well trained, or fail to use discipline once they are, they will not obey. Trust does not happen by accident. It is nurtured through fairness, transparency, and genuine care. Think about a leader you truly respect. They likely weren't just someone who gave orders, but someone who listened to you, protected you, and showed you a path for growth. In the workplace, if you want your team to follow a new process or a bold strategy, you cannot simply impose it. You must explain the reasoning, listen to their concerns, and prove that you are on the same front line as they are. Once trust is established, discipline, no matter how strict, is accepted more easily because they understand it is meant to protect and propel the team forward. I once saw a manager fail because he immediately enforced rigid rules without consulting his staff, leading to a sharp drop in productivity and his eventual departure. Thus, Chapter 9 is a profound lesson on how we observe, judge, and lead in every march of our lives. From reading subtle signals to positioning ourselves for success and building a strong team based on trust. Chapter 10: Terrain. Understanding your operating environment. In previous chapters, we explored strategy, force, and preparation. But have you ever wondered where all those elements are actually applied? Ancient wisdom often speaks of heavenly timing, earthly advantage, and human harmony. And today we dive deep into earthly advantage, a factor that seems simple, yet possesses the power to shift the entire tide of war and even your life. Sun Tzu, with his timeless vision, pointed out that understanding terrain is not just an advantage, but a matter of survival, where a brilliant general must read every mountain and river just as a CEO reads the market or an investor reads a chart. He classified terrain into 6 primary types, beginning with accessible terrain, where the ground is open and easy for both sides to traverse. Here, whoever arrives first to secure the high ground and catch the sunlight gains the upper hand, much like in business, where the first to launch a product and seize market share establishes a dominant brand position. The second type is entangling terrain, muddy or treacherous areas where moving forward or retreating is difficult. Sun Tzu advises against attacking first here. Instead, be patient and lure the opponent out of their stronghold into a more vulnerable position. This mirrors solving complex workplace issues. Rather than rushing in without clarity, find ways to break the problem down into manageable parts. Next is temporizing terrain, a stalemate where neither side has a clear advantage. If the enemy shows no flaws, Sun Tzu emphasizes not starting a fruitless war, but seeking change or another opening, similar to how silence or a change of subject in negotiations can be a clever strategy to break a deadlock. The fourth type is narrow passes, strategic choke points like mountain defiles. If you arrive first, occupy them firmly to await the enemy. But if they are already fortified, do not attack recklessly, but wait for their mistake. This reminds us of the importance of controlling key distribution channels or vital relationships in business. Furthermore, steep terrain with its sheer cliffs requires us to occupy the heights to await the enemy from below, as the higher position always offers superior vision and defense, teaching us that building a solid foundation and a strategic vision is paramount. Finally, there is distant terrain, where dragging troops a long way to fight without a clear advantage leads to immense costs and risks. In market expansion, be cautious of distant territories that demand massive resources without proportionate returns. Focusing on closer, high-potential markets is often wiser. Sun Tzu did not just teach how to recognize terrain, but also highlighted 6 fatal leadership errors leading to failure, such as flight due to miscalculating strength, insubordination when soldiers disobey, collapse from disorganized formations, ruin caused by internal strife between commanders, disorganization from lax discipline, and total rout from choosing the wrong terrain. All these failures stem from a lack of environmental awareness, poor management, and a lack of clarity in leadership. However, the most profound insight in this chapter is the philosophy of responsibility. A general must regard his soldiers as his own beloved children, so they will follow him into the deepest valleys and through fire and water. A brilliant leader is not just a master of maps or tactics, but a person of compassion, understanding, and accountability toward those they lead. When you value and care for them like family, they will fight wholeheartedly for the common goal. Chapter 10, therefore, is not merely a lesson in geography, but a masterclass in how we interact with our environment and lead people, helping you overcome any challenge through wisdom and humanity. Chapter 11, the 9 grounds, the art of psychological warfare. The 9 grounds might sound like a dry military geography lesson filled with difficult names, but it is actually a psychological map drawn by Sun Tzu to help a commander manipulate the fighting spirit of his troops based on every millimeter of dangerous terrain. Our goal today is clear: to manage team psychology based on the severity of the situation, not just on a battlefield, but in business or any project requiring collective resilience. Sun Tzu divided terrain into 9 types, forming a ladder of escalating danger where each rung represents a unique psychological challenge. We begin with dispersive ground, which is your home turf or comfort zone. While it sounds safe, it is fraught with risk because soldiers near home are easily distracted by family and personal affairs, leading to low motivation to take risks. You can see this in a startup where employees are still clinging to their comfort zones, not yet ready to burn themselves out for the common goal due to a complacent mindset. As we move through light, contentious, or intersecting grounds, focus and pressure begin to mount, much like a newly launched project where people feel the heat but still have multiple options to explore. This continues until we reach enclosed or focal grounds, where escape routes are limited. Here, the soldiers' tension rises and unity is forged as they recognize the approaching threat. The climax is death ground, where there is no retreat, and the choice is simply to win or perish. Sun Tzu stated that soldiers in death ground know no fear, a powerful psychological truth showing that when survival is threatened, humans unleash an unimaginable will to live. As a leader, you must recognize which ground your team is standing on to apply the right psychological strategy, as you cannot use the same motivational speech for a comfortable group as you would for one on the brink of disaster. This leads to Sun Tzu's cold, yet brilliantly effective art, throwing troops into a death trap so they will find a way to live. While it may seem inhumane, it is a masterstroke of psychology, because when all options except fighting are removed, the survival instinct peaks, leaving no room for fear or thoughts of flight. Think of a startup facing bankruptcy, an injured athlete, or a development team with a looming deadline and no backup resources. That pressure forces extraordinary creativity and tighter collaboration. However, this is a double-edged sword. An incompetent commander will turn death ground into a grave of despair, while a great leader will turn it into a forge to temper invincible warriors. Finally, to maintain this absolute focus, Sun Tzu emphasized the importance of keeping plans secret, requiring a leader to be silent and fair to maintain order. In the modern world, disclosing too many details or worst-case scenarios can cause information overload, leading to doubt and anxiety about things beyond the team's control. A leader must shoulder the strategic burden and communicate only what is necessary for the team to perform at their best, much like a director keeping a movie's ending secret to ensure the audience's full emotional experience. Ultimately, Chapter 11 is a profound course in psychology, teaching us to read the situation and manipulate collective emotions. Whether you are in a safe zone or facing death ground in your own life, remember that how you react and lead will determine everything. And understanding human psychology is the key to unlocking the hidden power within every individual and collective. Chapter 12: Attack by Fire, Utilizing Heavy Weaponry. The title Attack by Fire might sound dry and purely military, right? But believe me, in our modern world, fire attack is not just about literally burning things. It represents attacking with destructive power and overwhelming force to radically shift the landscape. More importantly, this chapter discusses how to manage emotions when making decisions, a vital life skill for anyone seeking success. Sun Tzu pointed out that fire is one of the most potent methods of attack, yet it remains a double-edged sword. To use it effectively, we must know exactly what we are going to burn through 5 main objectives that I believe can be widely applied to everything from business and career to personal relationships. The first objective is burning personnel, which isn't just about soldiers. It's the spirit and will of an organization, a team, or even an individual's faith. A fire attack on the human element can shake beliefs, cause internal division, or even neutralize key personnel. In business, this could mean poaching a rival's top talent or demoralizing their team with an overwhelming marketing campaign to weaken their will to fight and destroy their spirit of cooperation and mutual trust. Second is burning supplies, the lifeblood of any conflict. In the 21st century, think of financial resources, data, or essential materials in a project or company. Cutting off supply chains, disrupting cash flow, or destroying critical data are all forms of fire attack on supplies that cause an opponent to weaken rapidly by depriving them of basic resources. The third objective is burning equipment, targeting logistics, mobility, distribution systems, or even a rival's communication channels. Disabling their ability to move or transmit information will leave them isolated, out of control, and unable to respond in time. Fourth is burning stores, the repositories of weapons and reserves. Today, these are data centers, knowledge bases, core intellectual property, or critical infrastructure. Attacking these strikes at the heart of an opponent's capacity to store and recover, causing long-term damage. Finally, there is burning the formation, targeting the structure, strategy, and organization of the opponent. A loose organizational structure or an exposed plan are battlefields that can be burned to shatter the cohesion, order, and efficiency of their operations. By mastering these 5 targets, you see that fire attack is about destroying the core elements that sustain an opponent's power and stability. However, this strength is only truly effective with thorough preparation and favorable timing. Sun Tzu taught that starting a fire must have a basis. Tools must be ready. And most importantly, one must choose dry days with strong winds to ignite the blaze. If the fire starts inside, but the opponent remains calm, we must wait and not be hasty, as acting in accordance with natural laws and trends doubles our power. But there is one thing Sun Tzu emphasized, a golden warning. I want you to take to heart. Never go to war out of anger. I repeat, never go to war out of anger. Anger is the number one enemy of reason. Have you ever made a hasty decision while angry? And what was the result? Usually regret and impulsive actions without careful thought, leading to disastrous consequences for both sides. War must be launched from cold calculation and clear strategy, not from impulsive emotion. If you use fire because of anger, you might burn down your own world. Master your emotions before thinking about mastering the war. The final point, equally important, is knowing when to stop once your goal is reached. This is a profound lesson many overlook, because once they gain an advantage, they become greedy and seek total annihilation to flaunt their power. Sun Tzu warned this is dangerous as it drains your own resources and creates persistent enemies ready to retaliate. Victory is not about destroying everything, but about reaching your goal most efficiently with the least loss. Knowing when to stop is a form of wisdom that shows you are not swept away by emotion and always maintain a strategic view. Always ask yourself, what is my goal? Am I acting out of reason or emotion? And do I know when enough is enough? Chapter 13. The Use of Spies. The Power of Information. In this digital age, we hear a lot about big data, data analytics, and information is gold, where every decision from online shopping to billion-dollar business strategies is based on meticulously analyzed dry data. But perhaps few realize that the idea of using data to gain an advantage existed thousands of years ago, dissected exquisitely by Sun Tzu in Chapter 13, The Use of Spies. This is not merely a chapter about mysterious agents operating in the shadows. It is about the ultimate importance of data and intelligence. Sun Tzu asserted that a great commander must not only be skilled in tactics or military strength, but also be a master in collecting, analyzing, and utilizing information. He categorized the spy system into 5 distinct types, all serving a single goal: gathering intelligence to win without fighting. First is the local spy, residents of the enemy's territory who are familiar with the terrain, roads, and customs, serving as our sensors within the enemy's heart without arousing suspicion. Second is the internal spy, officials or soldiers of the enemy who, for various reasons, work for us, providing invaluable inside information that is often highly accurate and strategic. Third is the converted spy, or double agent, enemy spies whom we capture or bribe to serve our purposes, essentially using the enemy's own staff to feed them misinformation, or simply put, turning the enemy's stick against them. Fourth is the doomed spy, those sent with false information for the enemy to capture, sacrificing their lives so the enemy acts on misinformation, a cold but sometimes necessary strategy for the greater good. Finally, the living spy is the backbone of the intelligence network, the actual agents who penetrate enemy territory, gather live and accurate data, and safely return to report. As you can see, spying in the art of war is not just a concept, but a complex system designed to capture every corner of information, because Sun Tzu believed that investing in information is the cheapest investment compared to the cost of war. Think about it. Nothing is as costly as a prolonged war. Nothing as draining as a long siege, and nothing as heartbreaking as the loss of life. Meanwhile, investing in an intelligence network, though seemingly expensive at first, is the most cost-effective way to avoid massive losses. Accurate information acts like an early warning system, helping us avoid unnecessary battles or causing the enemy to collapse from within. To manage such a complex network, a commander needs two vital qualities: benevolence and subtlety. Benevolence builds loyalty and trust, ensuring spies are willing to take risks for you, while subtlety allows a leader to read people and distinguish between mere rumors and authentic intelligence. Thus, using spies is not an issue of morality, but a powerful strategic tool, teaching us that understanding the opponent, ourselves, and the situation is always the key to success. In business and life, researching partners or gathering sufficient data before a major decision is a metaphorical way of using spies, because information is not just power, it is the decisive factor for survival. Chapter 13 does not teach us how to be deceivers, but how to be smart decision makers based on the solid foundation of truth and an understanding. A priceless lesson that remains relevant in today's information-heavy world. Having explored the depths of the art of war chapter by chapter, it is now time to condense those essences into three core pillars: the backbone of Sun Tzu's entire philosophy and the most memorable, applicable points for our modern lives. The first and most vital pillar is the mindset that information is power, embodied in the classic proverb, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated." This is not just simple advice, but a profound philosophy of holistic understanding, where Sun Tzu teaches us that before looking outward to analyze an opponent, we must look inward to truly understand ourselves. How many times have we stumbled simply because we failed to accurately assess our own strengths, weaknesses, or resources? A brilliant leader objectively evaluates their team's financial limits and creative potentials before scrutinizing the enemy's strengths, weaknesses, and strategies. By grasping this complete picture, you move from acting on emotion to acting on data, turning uncertainty into opportunity and risk into something controllable, ensuring you not only win, but also avoid unnecessary losses. Moving to the second pillar, we realize that speed and timing outweigh raw strength, a concept that may seem counterintuitive, yet is incredibly subtle. Sun Tzu pointed out that a larger force does not guarantee victory. Rather, speed and the ability to choose the perfect moment are the decisive factors. Imagine a powerful fist that is useless if it hits thin air, while a light, well-timed strike at a weak point can shift the entire tide of battle. In the modern world, this mirrors a small, agile startup seizing a market opportunity before corporate giants can react, or a well-timed word in a conversation resolving a long-standing conflict. Speed allows you to seize the initiative, while timing allows you to optimize resources to achieve the greatest effect with the least effort. Do not be hasty, yet do not delay. Seek the golden moment to make your decisive move. Finally, the third pillar and the pinnacle of Sun Tzu's wisdom is the belief that the greatest victory is peace and the preservation of force. Instead of associating war with destruction, Sun Tzu argued that the highest form of generalship is to win without fighting. Every battle, win or lose, comes with a price in lives, wealth, and time. Therefore, a glorious victory that leaves you exhausted only makes you easy prey for the next predator. In our lives, this translates to the art of negotiation, resolving conflicts through diplomacy, and seeking win-win solutions rather than harsh confrontation. When you can neutralize conflict, turn an opponent into an ally, or simply choose not to engage in pointless arguments to protect your energy, you have achieved the highest victory. These three pillars, the power of information, speed and timing, and preservation, are not just for ancient generals, but are timeless keys to success in every field today. Reflect on how you can apply them to your career and relationships to achieve wisdom in every action. We have journeyed together through the profound pages of Sun Tzu's wisdom, discovering that the art of war is far more than an ancient military manual. It is a roadmap guiding us through the everyday battlefields we all face. From understanding ourselves and our opponents to the art of choosing the right time, place, and course of action, every principle can be distilled and reflected in our modern lives. I believe that through Sun Tzu's lens, we have seen that life is not a series of random events, but a vast arena where each of us can become the architect of our own destiny. Every day, we face decisions and challenges, from the small tasks of planning a productive workday to the grander pursuits of shaping a career, building relationships, or chasing a burning dream. These are your personal battlefields. Sun Tzu teaches us that true victory lies not just in defeating an enemy, but in understanding ourselves, knowing when to advance or retreat, and learning how to win without ever having to fight. It is a philosophy of wisdom, preparation, and adaptability, serving as a reminder that you hold the position of a general with the power to plan, lead, and shape your own outcomes. So, what about you? After hearing these reflections, what is the battlefield you are currently facing? It could be a career milestone you're striving for, a bad habit you want to break, a relationship you wish to nurture, or a personal hurdle you are seeking to overcome. There are no right or wrong answers, as we are all on our own unique journeys. So please share your thoughts and how you apply strategic thinking to your life in the comments below. For learning from one another is a vital part of the art of living and growing. If you enjoy exploring classic works and applying them to real life, Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any future videos where we continue to dive into ideas that have stood the test of time. We are committed to bringing you unique perspectives and deep lessons to equip you with the mental tools needed for your own battles. Finally, always remember that you are the most brilliant general of your own life. This fight is yours, and you possess the intellect and strength to win in your own way by planning, acting, and adapting step by step. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I wish you steadfastness, resilience, and clarity on all your personal battlefields, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.